Chapter 10. Sam Wiltshire. The wannabe Viking held out a grubby hand, wiped it on his trousers and then shrugged before sitting in the chair that had been McIntyre's. The dig director had loped back to his trench with an energy that surprised Fraser. Relief, perhaps? Or just happy to be getting back to his work? "Everyone calls me—" "I remember," Fraser said. "Wiltshire, Sam." And the voice fitted, almost pantomime yokel. She trawled back through her memory of Corby's interview notes. University of Bristol, his third year working on this dig. He loved it, hated being indoors, so archaeology was a dream job, in the summer anyway. And yes, he had left the dig site on the afternoon that Anna had gone missing. No, he hadn't seen anything. The young man seemed restless, eyes flicking from side to side, fiddling with the cup that McIntyre had left on the table. Lank blonde hair in a ponytail framed a thin, thoughtful face, elongated by the straggly beard twisted into 3 beaded sections. It was a fashion that seemed to go with man buns and beard grooming, started, Fraser assumed, by the proliferation of Viking dramas on Netflix over the past few years. Late 20s, she would have put him. He moved like a marionette whose wires had stretched, his faded t-shirt in combats too loose for his lanky frame. "I understand you gave a talk at Church Stretton Primary School last summer." Wiltshire Sam nodded, tapping the cup on the table. He seemed to realise that it might irritate, and pushed it aside, then drummed with his fingers instead. Fraser handed him the phone. "Do you recognise her? There's another picture after that one." Colour drained from the young man's face the longer he looked. "Is this her? The girl you found in the pool?" he said at last. Fraser had been trying to think of her as a young woman, aware that girl might seem somehow disrespectful. But it was true. In these photos she looked girlish, young. Just 24, Mona Balbriggan had said. "I didn't recognise her," the man said. "Yesterday, that photo. She looked nothing like. Sorry, it's a bit—" The skin around his mouth and eyes had gone a mottled green. "Yeah, I did the talk at the school. She asked us to come in after. She emailed Donald. He left cards at the National Trust place, for anyone interested." "How many times did you meet her?" Did she imagine the look of panic that flashed across his face? "Well, only that time I went into the school. It was all arranged by email." "You didn't have any contact afterwards? Helping set up the school club or anything?" He shook his head, his Adam's apple bobbing in his neck as he swallowed. "No, Claire might have done. She came with me to do the talk, to help with showing the finds and stuff." Claire? Fraser remembered the statement given to Corby the day before. This must be the woman who could attest to Anna not having been on the Perkins Beach path to the Devil's Chair on the afternoon she disappeared, giving them a time frame for when she must have turned off to the valley where Marianne had found her. Wiltshire Sam gestured outside the tent. "Pink dreadlocks. Can we ask her to come in?" While Wiltshire Sam went to extricate Claire from the group eating their packed lunches on the turf, Fraser's curiosity drew her towards the plastic boxes ranged on the table. In the first, several mud-encrusted objects revealed themselves to be curved chunks of rough black pottery. Beside them lay what might have been a knife, but so rusted and encrusted that it was hard to identify. The other boxes were lidded, stuffed with bubble wrap, and, she felt, not open to her inspection. "Checking out our bowls? Only found this morning," a well-educated female voice said from behind her. The dreadlocked girl, again she found herself using the word when young woman should surely be more appropriate, was with Wiltshire Sam, more curiosity than fear in her face. "Bowls, are they?" "Well, fragments, but quite sizable, and if you look at these," she pointed to 2 larger chunks, "you can see that they only need 1 more piece to fit together to make a complete one. Probably just everyday objects, not ceremonial. They came out of the roundhouse ditch. Do you want to have a look?" Fraser did, but now was hardly the time. "Did Sam," she couldn't possibly call him Wiltshire, "explain why I'm here?" The Viking was still looking pale, and a film of sweat glazed his forehead. With one hand he twisted his beard, rolling the lowest bead between long knobbly fingers. Claire, in contrast, seemed concerned but at ease. Tall and broad-shouldered, she had an athletic, rangy build that made her seem far more the warrior than Sam ever could. Yeah, Anna from the school in Church Stretton. We did a couple of sessions with her. Well, I went with Sam for the first one, and then I went back once more with some finds. Are you sure it was her? Well, we're still waiting for a formal ID, but we're fairly certain. The head teacher has ID'd the photo, and Anna Price is definitely missing. No way! But that's awful. She was lovely. I mean, just really nice and... Fraser's phone buzzed in her pocket, cutting through the stream of regret. Mona Balbriggan's number flashed up. Sorry, I'll have to take this. Fraser ducked out of the tent and walked a few metres before answering. She stopped on the edge of an unmanned trench, its soil the colour of milk chocolate, and marked by small pits and scraped gullies. A trowel lay in one corner beside a roll of string, forgotten or abandoned. The head teacher's news, when it came, made her mouth dry, a tingle of adrenaline creeping down her arms and through her belly, like cold gin on a summer night. I've been going through Anna's file, details of CPD courses and so on, Mona Balbriggan said. It seems Anna had a connection with this bunkhouse place. A WGLA training course 3 years ago, the first summer after she started with us. I thought you'd want to know. Fraser roared away from Green Hill, excitement spiked with irritation. Not a single archaeologist or walker had acknowledged recognising Anna Price. It was as though she had been invisible. Remind them of the circumstances and they muttered, "Oh yes, oh was that her?" all innocent and wondering in a not me gov kind of way. Now it emerged that at least 5 people at the bunkhouse had known her. Roger Taylor's woggle courses lasted for 7 days. He had had a week to get to know Anna Price, but had displayed not even a flicker of recognition. And then there was Marianne Leonard and her curious detachment. She had seen the girl twice, once on Titterston Clee and once face down in the Devil's Pool, a girl who had stayed under her roof for a week. Fraser didn't believe for a second that the woman could not have known her from her photo. That one saw everything. The centre manager was just leaving the bunkhouse when Fraser churned the Land Rover into the yard, spraying shale against the Mountain Expedition minibus's paintwork without even a pang of guilt. She yanked up the handbrake and flung open the door, calling to Marianne to wait. The woman had just let the dogs out of their pen and they surged towards her, tails waving as though greeting a long-lost friend. Fraser loved dogs, but never regarded them as the best judges of character. Be good to them and they would love you forever, even if you were the biggest shit in the world. She'd met enough XL bullies and Rottweilers, devoted to their South London drug lords, to know that a dog's judgment of humans was fickle and entirely based on self-interest. She had been kind to Marianne Leonard's dogs, so they liked her. Simple as that. She might have murdered 50 young women and flung them into pools, and their tails would still have wagged at her arrival. "Can I have a quick word?" she called, expecting the usual reserved smile and offer of coffee and cake. None was forthcoming. The centre manager looked pale, haggard even, fine lines gouging the skin around eyes and mouth. Like Wiltshire Sam, there was a film of sweat on her forehead and upper lip. The day wasn't that hot, surely. 23 at most. "Can it wait?" Marianne said. "I only have a couple of hours' break and I have some work in the garden." Her eyes flickered to the path towards her cottage and she called the dogs to her. They left Fraser's legs reluctantly. "It can't wait, I'm afraid," she said, and registered a small spasm of shock across the other woman's face. Perhaps she'd picked up on a hardness in Fraser's tone, the exasperation not quite hidden. "Anna Price did a woggle course here 3 years ago," Fraser said without preamble. "Did she?" There was nothing in her voice to betray emotion. It sounded dull, uninterested. "You said you didn't recognise her." "I didn't." Fraser raised an eyebrow, holding her hands out in question. "Roger does about 20 courses here between May and September." Now there was emotion in the voice, combative rather than defensive. 6 people on each course. Do you think I'd remember someone from 3 years ago? It's hardly an unusual name." "Not the name, maybe, but surely you recognised her." "She was face down in a pool, for fuck's sake. Dead." The swearing came as a shock. Not the word itself, but that she had used it. Until then, every exchange had been polite. In Fraser's experience, Most people peppered their language with obscenities in the privacy of their own home or amongst friends, but curated it in conversation with acquaintances, particularly those of a formal kind. Even hardened criminals spoke politely in a police interview room and swore only for effect. Until now, her exchanges with Marianne Leonard had been remote, controlled by the centre manager, as Fraser imagined most of her interpersonal contact was. Now at last she felt she was seeing the genuine soul beneath the surface, the mollusk within the shell. The woman's fear crackled out of her, but not engendered by anything Fraser had said. It had been there, bubbling like suppressed magma, before she had even arrived. Fraser took a slow breath and deliberately let her shoulders drop. You didn't recognise her from the photo? I didn't see the bloody photo, did I? DC Corby and that other guy, Chowdhury, showed it round in the dining room. I was in the kitchen. And of course, when she and Corby had interviewed Marianne gently, aware of the shock she might have felt after finding the body, aware that something about a police presence unnerved her, they hadn't shown her the photo of the dead girl. A stupid oversight. Well-intentioned, but stupid. Fraser apologised, expecting to see the woman relax or apologise in her turn for her defensiveness, but no apology came. I can go now? Fraser sighed. No coffee and cake, then. Perhaps Roger Taylor might keep her talking until tea time. Of course. Sorry to have held you up. I need to talk to Mr. Taylor. Do you know if he's in? The centre manager shrugged and whistled to her dogs, who were grubbing at the edge of the undergrowth. The trainees get the afternoon off at weekends. He might be in his room. You'll have to call him. She turned abruptly and made for the track to her cottage.